Have you ever had one of those quiet mornings where you sit with your cup of tea or coffee and wonder, am I still growing? Or am I just getting older? It's a strange question, isn't it? Because no one teaches us how to live after the busy years are behind us. No one explains how to fill the silence once the house is empty, and the roles we played, parent, provider, partner, begin to fade into memory. But here's something I want you to hear, and I want you to believe it. Just because the world is quieter now, doesn't mean you've stopped mattering. And just because your calendar isn't packed like it once was, doesn't mean your days can't be full of clarity, peace, and quiet joy. If your mind has felt cloudy lately, if you've caught yourself forgetting small things or feeling disconnected from your own thoughts, if your heart has felt a bit heavy, like there's something missing you can't quite name, please know that you're not alone. These feelings are more common than most people admit. And they don't mean you're broken. They mean your soul is craving something deeper, something steadier, something intentional. After 60, the sharpness of the mind and the peace of the heart are not things we can leave to chance. They must be chosen. Not in grand gestures, but in the smallest habits. The ones that become the quiet framework of our days. Let me tell you about Clara. Clara is 73. For the longest time, her days blurred together. She'd wake up late, watch a few shows, scroll through the news, take a nap, go to bed. It wasn't miserable, but it wasn't alive either. I felt like I was just existing, she told me. Like I was waiting for something, but I didn't even know what. Then one morning, she decided to do something different. Not big, just small. She set her alarm for a bit earlier and promised herself she'd sit outside for 10 minutes before touching her phone or turning on the TV. That was it. At first it felt strange, too quiet. But then something happened. The air felt different in those early hours. Her thoughts were clearer, her breath slower. And after a few days, she realized she looked forward to those moments. They became sacred. A space where she didn't have to be anyone for anyone else, just Clara with the wind and the morning birds. That one habit did something she didn't expect. It grounded her. It made the rest of the day feel more intentional. Less like drifting, more like living, and the mind. It started waking up again. Ideas came. Curiosity returned. She picked up books she hadn't touched in years. Started journaling. Calling old friends. Her world didn't expand because someone rescued her. It expanded because she reached into her own life and chose to show up. That's the heart of what we're talking about here. There are quiet things you can do each day that sharpen your thinking, not just puzzles or games, but presence. And there are daily rhythms that soothe the ache in your chest, the one that wonders if your best days are behind you. They're not. Not even close. One of the most powerful habits you can form, especially after 60, is speaking kindly to yourself. Frank, who just turned 80, told me that for most of his life, he only ever heard his inner critic. You forgot again. You're slowing down. Why can't you do what you used to? But one morning, he looked at himself in the mirror and just for once said, "You're doing just fine, old man." It made him chuckle. But more than that, it softened something inside. And from that day on, he made a quiet commitment: no more name-calling, no more self-scolding. He began treating himself like he would a dear friend, with patience, with gentleness, with grace. And he found that when he stopped attacking himself in his mind, his thoughts became clearer, lighter. His memory didn't improve overnight, but his confidence did. And with that confidence came curiosity. He started learning again, trying things again, laughing more, because when the mind feels safe, it blooms. Another daily rhythm that can transform how you feel is movement, not exercise for the sake of performance, but movement for the sake of aliveness. A simple walk, gentle stretching, dancing around the kitchen, not to burn calories, but to remind your body it's still part of this beautiful life. Movement sharpens the mind because it reconnects you to your breath, your senses, your balance. It's not about doing it right. It's about doing it often. Because your body is still yours, still carrying you, still capable of joy. Ruth, a retired nurse in her late 60s, told me that she started doing Tai Chi in the mornings. At first, she felt silly. "I'm not graceful," she said. But after a few weeks, something clicked. Not just in her joints, but in her spirit. "I feel like I'm listening to myself again," she said. "Like I'm moving with my body, not against it." And her memory, her mood, her sense of time. All improved not from a pill, but from presence. That's what these habits are about. Not control, not discipline, but presence. Finding your way back to your own life in the smallest, most loving ways. Your mind wants to stay sharp. Your heart wants to feel peaceful. And even if you've been through loss, disappointment, or disconnection, there is always a way back. You don't need anyone's permission to start again. You only need to believe that your life is still yours to shape. There's a rhythm to peace, a tempo that begins not in what we do, but how we do it. And after 60, that rhythm becomes more precious than ever. It's not about rushing anymore. It's not about proving. It's about feeling the shape of the day like a soft thread you can follow back to yourself. You might wake up and feel the weight of yesterday still hanging on your shoulders. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe you had a conversation that left a sting. Maybe it's just that low, dull ache of feeling left out, like the world is moving too fast, and you're not quite sure where you fit anymore. This is exactly why daily habits aren't just routines. They're anchors. They ground us when we drift. They hold us steady when everything else feels uncertain. Margaret, who turned 76 last spring, told me something I won't forget. I used to open my eyes in the morning and feel dread. Not fear exactly, just a kind of emptiness. Like I had nothing to look forward to, nothing meaningful to do. But she changed one small thing. Each morning, before she did anything else, she began writing down 3 things she was grateful for. Not huge things, not forced. Sometimes it was the sound of rain last night, or the smell of my coffee, or my knees didn't ache today. That simple practice took her no more than 5 minutes. But she said it was like turning a key in a rusty lock. It opened something inside her. Not happiness exactly, but peace. A soft, steady awareness that even in the quietest days, there was still goodness. And she noticed something else too. Her mind stopped racing so much. The fog began to lift. Her focus improved. Because when we root ourselves in what's working, we stop obsessing over what's missing. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it softens it. It wraps it in something gentle, and the mind, it responds. Clarity comes easier, mood swings settle, and the world feels a little less harsh. That's the thing about habits, they don't need to be loud or impressive. They just need to be consistent, and they need to be yours. Another powerful habit, especially in this season of life, is creating stillness. Not silence, not numbness, but true intentional stillness. Frank, who recently turned 80, said he used to fill every hour of his day with distractions. TV, phone, errands, even puzzles, just to keep his thoughts from wandering too far. I was afraid of the quiet, he said. Because in the quiet, all the sadness came up. But then he started doing something different. Every afternoon, he sat by the window. No phone, no background noise. Just 10 or 15 minutes of sitting, breathing, and watching birds, trees, shadows on the floor. At first, the stillness felt uncomfortable, but after a few days, it became comforting, then healing. He told me, it's like the sadness had space to breathe. And once I let it didn't feel so heavy anymore. That's the secret most people overlook. When you stop running from your thoughts, they stop chasing you. When you give yourself stillness, your mind begins to clear itself gently, quietly, without force. And in that clearing, new things arrive. Ideas, memories, moments of beauty, a kind of spiritual calm that doesn't need to be named to be real. Helen found that stillness in a different way. She's 71 and wakes early every day, not because she has to, but because she wants to. She lights a candle before the sun comes up and reads one page from her favorite book. Sometimes it's a devotional, sometimes it's poetry, sometimes just something that makes her heart feel full. She says, "I want to begin my day with softness, not noise, not demands. Just something that feeds me before the world tries to take from me." That habit changed everything. It gave her focus. It gave her mood a gentle lift. And more than anything, it reminded her that she still has the power to choose how she begins her day. And maybe that's what you need to hear too. You still get to choose. Not everything, of course, but enough. Enough to shape the way your day unfolds. Enough to protect your peace. Enough to honor your thoughts and tend to your own spirit. Because after 60, your mind doesn't want chaos. It wants clarity. And your heart doesn't want noise. It wants nourishment. And you can give yourself both, not all at once. Not by overhauling your life, but by planting small rituals into your day like seeds. Some bloom fast. Others take time. But each one is a sign that you haven't given up, that you still believe in the beauty of your life. That's the quiet strength of daily habits. They don't just make your days better. They make you stronger, not tougher, not busier, stronger in the way old trees are strong-rooted, calm, and able to stand through all seasons. You don't need to keep up with the world to stay sharp. You only need to keep showing up to yourself. Something beautiful begins to happen when you stop rushing through your days and start inhabiting them again. When you stop measuring your worth by how much you've done and begin cherishing the way you feel while doing it. This is where peace lives, not in productivity, but in presence. And it's also where sharpness returns. Because the mind, just like the body, responds to how it's treated. Feed it anxiety, it scatters. Feed it stillness, it clears. And feed it joy, even small doses, and it glows. One of the most overlooked daily habits, yet one of the most powerful, is intentional connection. Not just talking to people, but meaningful interaction. Feeling truly seen even in a small moment. Take Leonard, who's 78. He told me he used to go days without saying more than a few words to anyone. Not because no one cared, he said, but because I stopped reaching out. His kids were busy, his neighbors polite but distant, and he thought, what's the point in bothering anyone? But one day, he passed a young couple walking their dog and said hello. They smiled, stopped to chat, and from then on, every morning, they'd exchange a few kind words. It wasn't long conversations, just connection. But it made Leonard feel part of something again. He started visiting the park more often, waving at strangers, asking the cashier how their day was, writing short notes to old friends. Not all of them replied, but some did. And it wasn't about fixing the loneliness. It was about reminding himself he still mattered. Because connection doesn't always come to you. Sometimes after 60, you have to reach toward it. And when you do, your heart lifts. Your thoughts soften. Your mind sharpens, not from stimulation, but from relevance. From feeling that you are still part of this world, not separate from it. Even the briefest exchange can brighten your entire day. And here's something else most people never talk about: play. Yes, play. Laughter, curiosity, a little silliness. After a certain age, the world expects you to be serious, wise, dignified. And while those are beautiful qualities, they don't cancel out your right to play. Mary, who's in her early 70s, told me she started playing card games online, just for fun. Then she discovered word games, And one day she found a painting app. I'm not good at any of them, she laughed. But they wake me up. I feel like a kid again. She told me something that stuck with me. I stopped worrying about being good at things and just started enjoying them. That's a habit that will keep your mind sharp. Not because it's exercise, but because it brings light in. And light is what clears away the fog. So find something playful, something new. Try something without the pressure to master it. Dance in the kitchen. Do a jigsaw puzzle. Sing to the radio. Wear a silly hat while you water the plants. The point isn't the activity. The point is to remind yourself that life doesn't have to be so heavy all the time. Joy is nourishment for the brain. And your mind, just like your heart, needs regular doses of it. And here's another habit, perhaps the most personal of all, talking to yourself like someone you love. This sounds strange, I know. But how often do you hear yourself think things like, I'm so forgetful, I'm useless with technology, I'm slowing down too much? We do it without noticing. A quiet stream of criticism, self-doubt, and weariness that echoes in our thoughts. But what if just once a day you spoke to yourself with kindness? What if you paused and said, you're doing your best, and that's enough? Or you've lived through so much, give yourself credit. Or even I'm proud of how far I've come. These are not silly affirmations. They're medicine. They're the voice your younger self always wanted to hear, and your current self still needs to. It's a habit you can practice anytime brushing your teeth, making your bed, walking down the hall. A simple sentence of kindness can redirect an entire day. Because emotional peace doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from feeling safe inside your own mind. And you have the power to create that safety. Every single day. You don't need perfect habits. You need habits that make you feel alive. Ones that gently say, I'm still here. This moment matters. So do I. It's never too late to become someone who wakes up looking forward to the day. Not because of grand plans or big adventures, but because of the way you've learned to live again. With rhythm, with connection, with joy, with gentleness. You don't have to chase your younger self. You only need to welcome the you who's still growing, still learning, still deserving of peace. You are not past your prime. You are still in your becoming. And every small daily habit you choose becomes a quiet declaration, I still have purpose. I still belong to this life. I still love who I'm becoming. If you've stayed with me through this whole conversation, I want to say something very simple and very real. Thank you. Thank you for giving yourself the time to be here. Thank you for showing up for yourself today, not for anyone else's approval, not to chase youth, not to fix what isn't broken, but simply to remember that you are still growing. That choice to reflect, to listen, to gently shift, says something profound about your spirit. It says, I still care about the life I'm living. And that's not something to take lightly. That's strength. That's wisdom. That's grace. Maybe you've gone through long seasons of feeling invisible. Maybe your days have sometimes felt too quiet, or too slow, or just too far removed from the energy of who you once were. But I hope something today reminded you haven't disappeared. You haven't faded. You are still here, still vital, still full of thoughts and tenderness and quiet power. And you don't need massive change to feel better. You don't need to climb mountains or prove anything. You just need these small sacred rhythms. A moment of stillness in the morning. A word of kindness to yourself when no one else is around. A walk, a breath of air, a call to a friend. A smile at your own reflection, not for how you look, but for how you've endured. These are not small things. These are holy things. These are the habits that carry you not just through another day, but into a life that feels meaningful again. So let me ask you gently, are there any daily rituals that help you feel grounded? Have you found small ways to keep your mind clear and your heart steady after 60? I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments if you feel called to. because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And this space, this little corner of the internet, it isn't just about advice. It's about connection. And connection doesn't end when we grow older. In fact, it becomes more sacred. And if this message spoke to you, if it felt like a soft reminder that you're not alone, not invisible, not forgotten, I'd love for us to stay connected. Click subscribe if you'd like. Not for numbers, but so that the next time your spirit needs a nudge toward peace or purpose, this space will be here waiting for you. Because you're not finished. There's still laughter waiting in your lungs. There's still wisdom resting in your voice. There's still beauty in your presence, even when no one else is watching. And every day that you choose to live with a bit more tenderness, that's a day worth remembering. So take a breath, rest your hands, feel your feet on the floor, and know this: you are still worthy of joy, you are still becoming, and you are absolutely not alone. Always.